Kia Orana viewers, and welcome to October's Earth prediction readings. That Kia Orana greeting originates from the Cook Islands in the South Pacific. Just touching very briefly back on September's cards. My gosh, didn't they provide us with some interesting events. The sea card, the message in particular, with the volcanic mud island that popped up late in September off the coast of Pakistan after the 7.7 quake. I was just completely fascinated with that entire event. When you visually looked at the island, it didn't appear as if it had suddenly popped up out of the water because it was so intact. It was so large and intact, and there weren't any apparent floating debris anywhere. I found that a really interesting phenomenon. And then 3 days later, Italy popped up a volcano vent hole in its sea just off the coast of it. So plenty of interesting activities in our seas. And interestingly enough, that card arrives yet again for October. So let's go through the cards quickly. We'll make this fairly quick if we can and see what's in store. The first one there, we see the Liar. You know, I haven't had it out very often, the Liar, and I do struggle sometimes to try and pin the activity around it. But I do get shaking again because he's on a sort of a whole shaking feeling going about him. There's obviously hidden agendas. Someone's hiding something. It could be powerful people or leaders of countries. Anyhow, something comes out about hidden agendas. There's shaking to do. Shaking of buildings and properties by the look of it as well. Being trapped, being underground, because we've come under stairs here, so darkness and underground events as well. The next card that came out was the Friendship archetype, which is also a little bit of a hard one to try and work through. I often think these drums up here remind me of explosives, so I think of things exploding, so that could include also fire, drugs, drug-related issues, explosives. Oops. The next card was the Beast. Again, we're talking underground stuff, so movement of underground, negative energies in people, perhaps political leaders. Sometimes I've talked about this as sometimes being communist or countries that we have little insight into. Sometimes it's hidden activity there. New volcanic activities, fires again, being stuck, caught underground, locked in, locked down, contained by some sort of negative energy. The Body arrived. The Body hasn't come out that often either, and the few times it has, I've been able to tie it into physical pain, I think would be the best word, and often in group situations, often things that damage the body. So they can be when the skin itself is actually damaged, so that can be related to fires or broken bones or crushings, being covered in something and crushed. And it's not a very, that was a little bit strange. I left that footage in there because I thought it might be relevant one way or another. But coming back to the message card, it gives this feeling of huge sea energy or changes around the sea. And we talk about seabed issues, which was a classic example from the September card that came out with the two volcanic eruptions out of the sea and the formation of the one new island at any rate. Also, we noted there were some of the biggest sea storm related events, two of them that hit Mexico and one of the biggest typhoons that went across in a swathe around Hong Kong and up just missing Japan. So we see those energies again, potential for October with this message card. Big sea energies, animal die-offs as well, possibly sea quakes, storms on the sea, seabed issues, things that change and muck our sea up. Yeah, what can I say? And the card that followed that is the Death card. We've had that lots of times. We've got quite a lot of stuff in here talking about trapped and dark and hidden mass deaths, people affected by the mass deaths in an unpleasant way. I see just this morning as I'm doing this reading, there was a really horrible incident of 40 students being killed in their sleep up in, I think it was around Kenya. So you get feelings of that, the whole mass death where people are trapped and can't get out and don't really know what's coming. You can't see because it's dark. And the last card that came was the scales. Always relates to a bit of shaking to me. That's got fruit on it, so we think of summertime. We're coming into summer down here in the southern hemisphere. We haven't had a lot of quake activity in the southern hemisphere. We've recently had a fairly big series of events just around Peru, but there's been not much else in the rest of the southern hemisphere at the moment. Big ones anyhow. So sometimes this card can indicate bigger quakes coming, that whole shaking feeling, the crops being affected again, and legal issues. Sometimes I've talked about this being a card that denotes really unpleasant legal issues, perhaps to do with family matters. You know, when you get these mass shootings that occur and it's somebody's child who's committed the event, and they get very convoluted and complicated cases, whether or not the person who commits the crime has some sort of mental instability that goes along with it, or what was hiding behind it. We got this when the Batman shootings occurred in Colorado. This card was out at the time. So you can get some of those more difficult, convoluted cases that will pop up again. So anyhow, guys, that's it for the cards. They're pretty active and busy. You know, we're rolling along so quickly now. There are many more Earth changes constantly all the time. We call them visual or weather perception as climate change, but remember, we reside on this Earth, and so consequently we're also undergoing change, as are most of the living creatures on this planet. And we can see that with the intense amount of change that people are wanting to put forth on the planet as well. None of that is going to go away. We are in a phase of moving forward, and to move forward there can be hostilities and tensions because you're breaking belief systems and boundaries that have limited us in the past, and it's not an easy way to move forward. So we are constantly now seeing it, especially up through the Middle East, which is almost imploding on itself one way or another. I don't think that's going to change for them for some time. They're pretty much going to have to live with that. So anyhow, thanks for tuning into my readings. I really appreciate your time and energy. I love hearing your comments. I hope you all have a great month ahead in October. Take care of each other, show some love and light and laughter. Kia orana. The crystals that I've got here, in case any of you are interested, this is a brand new one I picked up the other week. This is called Murian Seed Crystal. It's really rather fascinating. It's one of the oldest crystals on the planet and has only just recently been discovered out of Peru in 2013. The crystals have obviously existed for a long time but have been unavailable for us to actually procure. So I'm quite excited by that seed crystal there. And this is a beautiful quartz crystal. They're just magnificent. Crystals are very crystals are very powerful, healing, natural parts of our planet, and they do have specific energies related to them. They can be great for just changing vibrations around you, whether you need to uplift some positive vibrations or have some calming influence around you. These crystals, like everything else on Earth, give off a vibration that they have from their origin. And so when you put them in a room, you can help to enhance certain aspects